Thanks for joining us. I want to ask you first up about that climate summit last night. It's not really your bailiwick, although you're a former Energy and Environment Minister. Does it concern you that you've got the US primarily promising to reduce emissions by 50% over a decade? Now, if they do that, won't there be economic ramifications for the entire world, or are they more likely just not to follow through on such a grand pledge?
Well, the Americans will decide their own particular targets, just as we will. And as you know, we've been delivering on our emissions reduction targets, whether it was with Kyoto or now with our 2030 target, where we're seeking to reduce the emissions by 26 to 28%, and we're already down by 19%, something the Prime Minister pointed out in his statement last night. Our way forward is to focus on technology, not taxes, and we're investing in hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, other forms of energy storage like pumped hydro, and that is helping to transition our energy system, lowering emissions, but importantly lowering energy costs, as well as ensuring we have a stable grid. That's our focus. Our focus is on delivering on our targets.
Yeah, I think Scott Morrison was very strong on that last night, saying it's about results, not about promises. But if the US did deliver a 50% reduction in emissions over the next decade, that would come at an enormous economic cost, and other countries, including Australia, would be subjected to some of those economic costs, wouldn't they?
Well, again, it's going to depend on how the technology develops. We're very hopeful that we'll see major and significant improvements in technology. That's why we're making investments in them. But no two economies are the same. No two countries have a similar energy system, and that's why Australia has to make plans and policies based on our circumstances. And as you know, nearly 1 in 4 Australian households have rooftop solar. That's the highest on a per capita basis anywhere in the world, and we've been rolling out renewable energy at 10 times the rate of many other countries. And when you look at some of the countries that have made grand, ambitious target projections, they have not delivered the results that we have delivered in actually reducing emissions. So I think Australia has a very positive story to tell, but again, our focus is on technology, not taxes, Chris.
Yeah, and your focus is also on rational policy responses to an environmental challenge and looking after the economic interests of the country and the world. Yet you have a summit last night where the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken introduces another teenage activist to rant against capitalism and against all sorts of other social issues around the world. I mean, you must be worried about the direction the US wants to take this debate.
Well, President Biden obviously has a very different approach to these issues than his predecessors, and obviously that is a priority for their administration. We'll work constructively with the United States across a whole range of areas, including with clean energy, and we have some advantages in terms of the technology development here in Australia, and that is a story that we'll continue to tell. What I find always amazing about this debate is the huge gulf between some of the rhetoric and some of the practical results. And when it comes to Australia, we are delivering on our commitments. Other countries don't necessarily have such a positive story to tell.
Well, exactly. You don't want to criticise the Americans too much, but honestly, when you've got a gathering, virtual as it was, a gathering of world leaders, and the US injects into it a teenage activist sprouting all sorts of gobbledygook, it just it makes positive, rational policy formulation all that more difficult.
Well, positive rational policy formulation is our guide, as you know. This area has been pretty challenging for a number of years for Australia, but if you look at the overall economy and its settings and where we have delivered results, we've got a great story to tell. Australia's outperformed other major economies on both the health and the economic front. I'm here in Perth, Chris, just at the local markets with the member Celia Hammond, and the customers are coming through the door at a rapid rate. When I came over on the plane from Sydney into Perth, it was full, and we've seen in the job numbers the labour market proved to be remarkably resilient and the unemployment rate fall to 5.6%, when Treasury, as recently as December with the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook, was forecasting an unemployment rate around 7.5% for the March quarter. So we have certainly outperformed expectations when it comes to the economic recovery. That's my focus, and that's why our rational, considered policy making that you will see outlined again in the budget is designed to achieve more job creation.
Look, you're spot on. Everybody is impressed with our economic performance despite this incredible challenge that you and the country's been dealing with. Because of that, your budget's not going to be in quite as bad a situation next month as many people expected, because fewer people are unemployed because you're getting people off JobKeeper sooner. The New South Wales Treasurer, Dominic Perrottet, has suggested to try and help the hospitality sector and in particular our CBDs, Canberra could get rid of fringe benefit tax on corporate lunches and dinners. Are you attracted to that idea at all?
Well, I've heard that from Dom, and I've also obviously been engaged with the sector, and obviously they would like us to continue to provide that relief. But we've got other measures that are in place that are designed to boost economic activity in our restaurants, in our cafes, in our pubs, and our clubs, and indeed right across the economy. If you think about not just the JobKeeper payment that's now come to an end, and we held firm with the ending of that payment, but also the cash flow boost, the investment incentives, the tax cuts that are rolling out. The other particular programs that we've put in place are all designed to put more people into these facilities, and the hospitality sector will benefit from that. More people will go into the CBDs as the restrictions are eased, particularly around public transport, and I welcome those moves to do that in New South Wales, and also as Australians feel more confident to spend that money that's been accumulated on their household and business balance sheet. So I'm confident that we have the right settings to support the hospitality sector. Of course, if Dom wants to dig into the New South Wales Treasury coffers and provide other incentives, as he's already done, with vouchers and the like, to get people to spend at those local restaurants and cafes, we would welcome that. But the government has done a lot at the federal level. Indeed, we've committed in direct economic support more than double what the states have committed.
He has indeed got those dining vouchers out there on offer, and even though I object to them, I better get out there and use mine sometime soon. Just very briefly, Treasurer, on the budget, is there room for more stimulus, more tax cuts in the budget, or is it already time to start to get the focus back to debt and deficit?
Well, we're always the party of lower taxes, and at the last election, there was a very clear contrast between us and what the Labor Party, then under Bill Shorten, was offering the Australian people. I'm not going to comment on the budget speculation, but we are in the middle of the pandemic. It's not a time for austerity. There's a lot in this budget, but it's designed to build that momentum which has so successfully seen Australia come back from the massive economic hit last year.